Hello, I am Red Mage, and welcome to a Magic the Gathering video featuring the color red. In today's video, we're going undefeated with Mardu Midrange in Karlov Manor Standard. Are you tired of getting run over by mono red and Boros, or outvalued by mono black? Then allow me to recommend this life-gaining, value-producing pile of good cards. The key that makes this deck so dominant is defensive speed. We have 10 2-mana removal spells, 2 Go for the Throat, 2 Molten Collapse, 4 Lightning Helix, and 2 Virtue of Persistence. We have 4 3-mana sweepers, 2 Path of Peril, and 2 Brotherhood's End, as well as 4 Preacher of the Schism at 3 mana, which, depending on the situation, can draw cards, make lifelinking vampires, and or be a brick wall to aggro decks. We then have a bunch more brick walls at 4 and 5 mana, with 3 Archangel of Wrath, 2 Sheoldred the Apocalypse, 3 Bonehoard Dracosaur, and 1 Aclazotz Deepest Betrayal, as well as 1 Cruelty of Gix, which can get the best creature in a graveyard right away if the game state requires it. With the exception of Virtue, which is a 2-mana removal spell on the front end, we don't have any cards that cost more than 5 mana. This allows us to deploy whatever we need, whether removal or blockers, to stay alive until we take over the game with value, and drastically cuts down on games we lose with expensive cards rotting in our hand. Note also that roughly half of the non-land cards in the deck gain life. Lightning Helix and Virtue gain life while removing creatures. Archangel of Wrath is removal that gains life and leaves behind a lifelinking body. Aclazotz has lifelink. Preacher of the Schism makes tokens with lifelink. Sheoldred gains 2 life a turn, or more. The Celestus gains life, and allows us to play our 5 drops a turn early. The extensive removal, the early sweepers, the life gain, and the low curve combine to make it incredibly difficult for aggro decks to run us over. But what about blue-white control? That's obviously more difficult. I've been playing around with this deck list since Karlov Manor came out, mostly in search of the best deck to take advantage of the Lightning Helix reprint, and always came to the conclusion that it would be too weak to control. It's not like you can just shove 4 Duress into your deck, right? But then again, why can't you? Why not just play 4 Duress? What I realized, and why I'm playing this deck now, is that with mono-white aggro mostly squeezed out of the format, virtually every deck plays a significant number of non-creatures. Mono-red plays a ton. Boros decks typically play 8 to 12, and they are all very key. Mono-black, Rakdos, and mono-white midrange decks all play a lot. Bant Poison, Ramp, Blue Tempo decks, Sultai Graveyard, Anvil, Simic Artifact decks, etc. Now, to be clear, Duress is going to be a dead card more often than you would like, just not nearly as often as you might expect. And when it's good, it's often game winning. We do have 2 Celestus and 1 Restless Vents to loot away unneeded Duresses, or removal spells for that matter. And it's important to note that it's not just Duress that gives us game against control. Lightning Helix can go face. Molten Collapse can target Planeswalkers. Brotherhood's End can cleanly answer a Wandering Emperor. So there are very few cards that will be truly dead in any given matchup. And we have a tight curve of value-generating, game-winning threats starting at 3 mana. Now, I haven't gotten the chance to test this against blue-white control yet. What I'm showing you here are the first and only games I have played with this deck in Ranked, and I didn't happen to play that matchup. I do think this deck would totally hold its own against control, but even if it didn't, as you will see, It so thoroughly dominates mono red and the rest of the metagame that it doesn't need to win against control that often to maintain a great win rate. I hope you enjoy the gameplay, and we'll be back at the end to wrap up. Okay, this looks pretty good. If we draw another land, we can kill something with the Archangel on turn 4. Go for the Throat turn 2, Celestus turn 3, this turn 4. That should be good enough against mini decks. Ooh. We get a turn 1 Duress. Nice. Okay. So we have nothing that can die to cut down. But we also have nothing that can die to Path to Peril. This looks like mono black. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to cleave the path. But I guess we take that only because they could potentially cleave it. And we might be in a spot at some point where we're building up multiple vampire tokens with Preacher. Honestly, I'm not sure that's true, but you know what I just thought of, though? If they have a Virtue, they could Virtue a creature and then cut it down. So I probably should have taken the cut down. At the end of the day, it's not going to matter too much, but so I would prefer to be able to hold up, go for the Throat, and then cast something on our turn, but it's not a big deal. We can always kill it in our upkeep if we want to, although I'm not totally sure we will want to. So if we do that, we're not going to do anything else this turn. But if we don't do it this turn, then that's a huge life swing. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Okay. So next turn, depending on what they play... Okay, that's not great. Well, that is not good. But we might be able to stay ahead of it. We can kill it this turn with the Archangel. It'll be a second before they can activate it. It'll ramp them, but that's not that big of a deal. The next time when they flip it, we can kill it again with the Archangel. Okay. Got a little greedy there. If we Cruelty and do anything other than reanimate right now, they'll exile their Sheoldred. Although if we check their hand, we can consider just leaving back the Archangel so that if they attack with the Trespasser to exile the Sheoldred, it's just a chump attack and we can eat it. Okay. Let's see what they got. That way we get the search value out of it. Okay. Well, that's fine. Okay, so we don't want to play Mirex now, despite the fact we might want to discard this Caves to a Celestus trigger, because if we do, they'll just Field of Ruin it. We're not going to attack. Do we take the action? I guess so, since the Mirex is kind of destined to meet a Field of Ruin anyway. Which one do we keep? I guess we keep the Mirex because we might be able to get at least a little value out of it. Okay. There we go. They didn't want to go through all that. So what were we going to get there? It almost certainly was going to be a Virtue. Although, maybe we get Dracosaur? It honestly is a very difficult choice because Virtue is the biggest thing we could get right in a lot of ways, but with the Trespasser, I mean, we can, like if we discard both the Plains and the Mirix, we can kill it with the Archangel this turn, which maybe we do just to save the graveyard value. Awesome. Okay, so we're definitely keeping this hand. The only question is, do we awkwardly play this first so we can Helix on 2? I think so, even though it might mess up Sheoldred on 4. Okay. Yeah, we'll probably want the Helix on 2. Wow. All the tap lands. Okay. Well, the Shattered Sanctum is a good draw in that we can play Sheoldred next turn, which we'll almost certainly do. And that means we can play Dracosaur on turn 5, which that should basically seal it up, those two together. We're not blocking this turn. We're not blocking either creature. It's not worth the risk. And honestly, most people don't bluff in this spot anyway. We're taking a ton of damage. Next turn, we will have to block. We just won't have any choice. So can they give Feldon more than 4 toughness? Not with anything that is commonly played. So we do this, that way we can eat the Feldon, even though they will get a card out of it. And they have to 2-for-1 themselves to kill the Sheoldred. But we just can't risk it. If they have Monstrous Rage and Lightning Strike, then we lose if we don't block with Sheoldred, so... Those are a lot of good cards. But we're going to draw 2 cards, or ish, with Dracosaur, so we'll see. Well, it's... Oh, wow. That is brutal. It's possible they have 5 points of burn in hand and there's just nothing we can do about it. Unfortunately, I don't think we can... First of all, I'm playing the Restless Vents, not one of these lands. We have plenty of lands. We need the creature land out there. I don't think we can attack with Dracosaur this turn in case they have land, Godric, Kamano, or something like that. Okay. Okay, well that's a good sign. All right. Right. A little late on these Duress. Yep. We attack with the Restless Vents and the Preacher. Try to draw a card. That is good. So, awkwardly, we have to let them recast the Squee next turn if that's what they end up doing. We can't risk them drawing a Lightning Strike. There we go. So this is very sketchy without red mana. We'll have red mana once, but I think we still keep it. I don't know. Against control, this hand is not very good. Duress is great, obviously, but the rest of it is terrible. I could see it going either way. I think we try to do better. Okay, well, so we'll keep... We're putting back either the Path or the Brotherhood's End. I guess I'll keep Brotherhood's End. It's more useful against Planeswalkers if this happens to be a control deck. It can clean up a Wandering Emperor sometimes. Okay. Alright, well that is very key. Getting our third land so we can get our Celestus down. Is this mono red? Presumably, yeah. Okay. So Brotherhood's End is good. I wish this was an instant speed card in this moment. Yeah. Although we should be able to clean things up pretty cleanly with Brotherhood's End next turn. If they play a Godric, for example, we're taking 5, but then they have no board. Okay, well, we are again taking 5, but we clean it up. Too bad we didn't draw a land. We could have held up Lightning Helix. But we'll do this. They won't be able to cast a Squee from the graveyard. And then next turn, most likely we double Helix. So if we have to, we can respond to a lethal burn spell with a Helix. And Monstrous Rage on its own does not get Codebreaker out of Helix range. Oh, well, we're going to kill the Codebreaker anyway. Alright, so I think we kill this thing now. On the other hand, if we pass, we get to loot with the Celestus. I think that puts it over the top. The fact that we get to specifically gain a life is really what we're excited about. So at this point, I don't think we're worried about Brotherhood's End. But we could discard Molten Collapse. Which lets them know we have a removal spell. So we have to do this now. Otherwise, if the Prowess trigger resolves, they can Monstrous Rage it to save it if we Lightning Helix it later. Discarding case to case. Makes sense. Another Helix is great. If we play Sheoldred, is there any way they can kill us? Probably not, and even if they can kill Sheoldred, we can Brotherhood's End plus Helix on the next turn. So they can bring back Squee from the graveyard. Okay. pretty reasonable to squeeze also in this spot. Okay. What's in their hand? If it's a Lightning Strike or a Monstrous Rage, we either go to 4 or they kill the Sheoldred. Going to 4 is fine. They would be casting 2 spells a turn. We'd get a Celestus trigger. We've got 6 points of life gain plus another 2. Yeah. No blocks. Oh. Well, this Brotherhood's End is going to be pretty good. Honestly, I don't think we do, because if we draw something we want to keep, we don't want to discard any of this. So we're going to decline. We get the life gain either way. That is an important, crucial element. So they have a solved case, so we don't have infinite time. They will eventually get there if we don't kill them. So I think I guess let's hold on to the pass for now. We can still hold up the Helix. Nothing happens when it dies. Although they are going to get... So let's see what... if they get a play with fire. It's a little sketchy. You know what? I think the life gain is more important. I'm going to let it go to night here. We're going to discard the pass, keep the Mire. We're going to gain life from the Sheoldred. You know what? I forgot about the case. It actually literally draws cards, so that means they take 6 a turn from Sheoldred. That's brutal. Well, that should actually make things wrap up pretty easily here. What do you have in the graveyard? Just play with fire. Cool. This is going to turn it to day again, so we're going to get another trigger with the Celestus, which means 2 more life with the Sheoldred. Yep. So we don't know what's in their hand. Let's go ahead and Helix this Swift Spear now. Theoretically, they might be able to save it, but that's not... I'm not too worried about that. We could even double Helix it, potentially. Okay. Dead. That happens. So presumably if they had a Monstrous Rage, they would have cast it on the Swift Spear to save it in that spot. Okay. Well, that's fine. Do we even kill the adversary? We can put them to 6, and then they would die to their own case. Sounds pretty sweet. Right, we put them... Oh, we put them to 5. But either way, they die to their case. Cool. Discard Celestus. Alright, so the Celestus gets our 2nd black mana. This hand looks pretty good. I think we play Sanctum on 1. Well, now it doesn't matter because we'll play this on 2. But we still do this. I think. It doesn't really matter, but... This way we guarantee Path of Peril on 3, if we need it, which we might. So we're probably going to have to Helix something this turn just to stay alive, and then Path of Peril next turn instead of the Celestus, which is unfortunate. Okay. Scry to the top. So we're taking 8. We would go to 3. They have a card in hand and they scryed on top. That means we probably will die if we Path of Peril without Lightning Helixing this turn. Yeah, I think we're just too far behind here, but we've got to do it. There's just no way. Now, at least hopefully, maybe that was a Monstrous Rage. Charming Scoundrel, okay. Okay, so what's in their hand? Okay. All right, well. Again, I wish I could get the Celestus down, but we've got to do this. Okay. I mean, I think the only thing we can do here is play Sheoldred and just hope we can survive for a turn to start gaining life. We do this so we can get a vampire. Obviously, a 1/1 is a terrible blocker compared to a 2/4 Death Touch, but okay, we might have it then. That's huge. Okay, so we can do a double flip here. If we... Oh, actually, it'll just be a single flip. They know what's up, though. Wow. I don't think we can keep this. All right. Opponent mulliganing also. The question is what we're going to keep. So Duress is good against a mulligan if it hits something. But if we keep it and hit nothing, then that's basically like mulliganing to 5. I think we have to keep Path of Peril because we don't have any other interaction for aggro. I think we get rid of Duress. I mean, the thing is, if it's a control deck, we need to get rid of Path of Peril. But I don't think we can risk it. I suppose we could get rid of one of the creatures, but they're just so valuable. Archangel's so valuable against aggro, and Bonehoard just a way to take over a game. All right. I think we play Sundown Pass in case we draw Lightning Helix and need it next turn. Okay, so it is Boros. Okay. Path of Peril can take care of this Warden, but I think we go ahead and do it now, and that will incentivize them further to dump their hand. If they have Gleeful Demolition here, they would have been able to convoke the Knight. That looks like that's what they have. That's amazing. So they would be able to convoke the Knight if we had not virtued that Warden. Now we Path of Peril and set them back to nothing. Next turn we play Archangel of Wrath just as a creature, and I think we win the race. Okay. So we could save the Archangel to kick it next turn, but we just want to play Dracosaur next turn, right? Okie dokie. If they have Case, they kill the Archangel. That would be good. But Dracosaur still would get us pretty far. Oh, okay. That's understandable. I mean, you're sort of wasting your frontliner, right? And just giving yourself the chance to cast an Epicure if you draw one. Okay. I think we leave back the Archangel as an additional blocker, just in case they can kill the Dracosaur. Because they could play Warden, Recruiter, Attack with All. Damn. That's going to make things really hard. You might as well just attack with all of them in this spot. The same number is getting killed either way. Well, if we draw another land, we can cast the Virtue next turn, but there's a good chance it's going to be too late. We kill the Recruiter and eat a Warden. I'd rather kill both the Wardens, but I mean, we can afford to do that. We take 16, go to 3, gain 6, go to 9. Okay. That's pretty good. So they still have a 5-power creature, but we're gaining 3 life a turn. Wow. 6-power creature. Okay. Well, we can't kill the Knight, which is very unfortunate. But we can gain a ton of life. I don't really see any value in blocking here. Well, I guess we check out what's in their hand. Nothing. Okay. So we just attack with both, right? There's no reason not to.
This is the only way we can kill them next turn, and it should be impossible, I think. There you go.
And we're back to wrap up. You really got to see there how key the life gain was in putting us out of reach of our opponents while we took over control of the board state. And against Mono Black, you really got to see the payoff of how the creature assortment is constructed. Preacher of the Schism, as a relatively efficient threat, dodges all of the early removal. Because of that, we ourselves can play Path of Peril and Brotherhood's End without relying solely on high mana value cards to win the game. Lightning Helix and Archangel of Wrath were both incredible. I think it's well worth it to include white in what otherwise would be a Rakdos midrange deck. Including white, by the way, also makes Path of Peril much better. This is primarily in the deck just as an early sweeper, as all of our win conditions are larger creatures that we don't want to kill with a cleaved path. However, we are going to encounter situations sometimes, perhaps against a dinosaur deck, there are still a few of those roaming around, where we really want to destroy all of the creatures and reset the board. Overall, I am super pleased with this deck. We'll have to see how it does against control, but again, it doesn't have to do that great. It really doesn't have to be very good against control in order for it to be very successful in the metagame. There are going to be times when you play a deck like this, you play against 3 control decks in a row, they have God draws every time, and you wonder what you're doing with your life. But in general, it's not going to be like that. You're also going to have stretches like I had here, where I played 5 games in a row, all very good matchups, and the inclusion of 4 Duress didn't really hurt me in those games. I honestly don't think that I would make any changes to the deck, although more testing is definitely needed. Let me know in the comments if you give this deck a try, or if you're trying something else interesting to tackle the current metagame, and I'll see you in the next one.